Absolutely, General. But let me also, in fact, circle back to Major General G.G. Dwivedi on this, because I want to understand how significant of a threat, if I can, in fact, take it. But before I come to you, let's now, in fact, take a look at the NIA chart sheet, which my colleague will now read out to understand what actually is there. Rumi.
Right in front of me is some part of the NIA chart sheet against Matthew Aaron Van Dyke and 6 Ukrainian nationals who were arrested in a UAPA case earlier yesterday. I'll read out the excerpts from this chart sheet. They have been charged for importing used consignments of drones from Europe to Myanmar via India for the use of EAGs. These EAGs are also known to be supporting some proscribed Indian insurgent groups by way of supplying weapons and other terrorist hardware and training them, thus affecting national security and interest of India. Number 4, the point reads that for the purpose of uncovering all the facets of this conspiracy and all the persons involved in executing the object of the conspiracy, the NIA has arrested the below mentioned accused persons from various places to further investigate their role and information available with them pertaining to the present case and other accused persons. The first is Matthew Aaron Van Dyke, USA national. His PP number is 8371855512. He was arrested from the Kolkata airport on 13th of March 2026 at 9 p.m. in the evening. The next is Harba Petro, who is a Ukrainian national, whose PP number is GM327491. He was arrested from the Lucknow airport on 13th of March 2026 at 8:02 p.m. So you see that these 3 people are the next is Slivek Taras, who is also a Ukrainian national who was arrested from Lucknow airport on the 13th of March at 8:25 p.m. So all these 3 people were arrested on the 13th of March from different places. 2 of them were at the Lucknow airport, while one, the key person who has been arrested, Matthew Aaron Van Dyke, who's a USA citizen, was arrested from the Kolkata airport. We also see the rest of the people. One is Ivan Sukmanovsky, who was arrested from the Lucknow airport as well at 8:10 p.m. on 13th of March. He was arrested from the Lucknow airport. Then we have Stephen K. Marian, who was arrested from the Delhi airport on the 13th of March at 11:40 p.m. Then we have Honcharuk Maxim, who is another Ukraine national who was arrested from the Delhi airport on 13th of March at 11:30 p.m. And the last and the final arrest was also made at the Delhi airport on the 13th of March at 11:20 p.m., whose name is Kaminsky Viktor, who is another Ukrainian national. So 3 people were arrested from the Delhi airport, 2 were arrested from the Lucknow airport, and 1 was arrested from the Kolkata airport. I'll read out point 5 of the NIA chart sheet. It says that all constitutional and statutory requirements were observed while arresting the accused, and the grounds of arrest have been made communicated to them in English language as well as their vernacular languages in writing, and acknowledgement has been received. Copies of grounds of arrest have also been communicated to their relatives, which is why the Ukrainian nationals, for the Ukrainian nationals who have been arrested, the Ukrainian government has, of course, remember Shivani, urged an urgent intervention and has urged the Indian government to release these people who have been arrested in a very serious conspiracy case under the UAPA. Over to you.
Right, Rumi. In fact, let me go across to General G.G. Dwivedi on this. General, when we're looking at this entire chart sheet, like I've been pointing out, the most significant is them having to transfer that military trek to the ethnic armed insurgents. I want to understand how significant, if I may call it, a mercenary style threat or technical threat, that they are in fact providing military drones to these local insurgents in a world which is already looking at war on different fronts.
Well, Shivani, as I was trying to articulate in the last intervention, that this is a well-oiled network. The people have been arrested from different parts of our country, from Calcutta, from Lucknow. That means that this network was quite operative and well established. The second issue is that they are trying to smuggle in the drones and such like equipment to help out the rebels in Myanmar is a serious issue, because that means that India is part of the conduit for these type of equipment to pour into Myanmar. And that means that we have a direct threat, because after all, this equipment, instead of going to Myanmar, can also fall in the hands of certain anti-national elements who are quite active in the northeast region. So the issue is that we have to see this in entirety as to how this network was operating. What was the exact intent? Was it only to support the rebels in Myanmar, or also for certain anti-national elements who are operating in our country, especially in the northeast? That also needs to be taken into cognizance. And my last point is that if these people have been operating like this, and they have been quite active, well established, have a kind of a loop that is running through, I think we need to go deeper into this, because what are the 5-6 people arrested may be only tip of the iceberg. There may be a lot of other agencies involved. And my last issue is today, it is the non-state actors, it is the mercenaries who are actually doing all this dirty work. They are being paid by the masters who are behind the scene, and we need to be very, very, I think, sensitive, because after all, northeast region is a very, very sensitive part of our country. It has a lot of political fault lines, historical and geographic fault lines, and we share a border of 1,640 kilometers with the, and that border, Assam, Nagaland, Manipur and Mizoram, and especially Mizoram, because they have a lot of ethnic affiliation with the border areas people in Myanmar. So in conclusion, I would say that we need to take this issue very seriously. It just cannot be taken as a off the aberration or one-time instance, because we have to see in the total overall geopolitical environment in which our own security comes into play, the Myanmar instability, again a matter of serious concern, the Chinese interest in this region, and we have now a new government in Bangladesh, whereas the previous regime were very hostile. How we can cooperate with them to ensure that such like activities do not actually take place, and also how we can handle our own security interest with our other neighbors. Shivani.
Right. In fact, I have some more information where we'll take a look at who actually Matthew Van Dyke is. Remember, we gave you information about who he is on social media, about what he's trying to do and what he's proclaimed to be. So let's look at who he really is. So he was born on 11th June 1981 in Baltimore, Maryland, USA. So he's a US citizen, and he seems to have proclaimed himself to be a lot of things. So let's look at that. He earned his bachelor's in political science from the University of Maryland. So we have some photographs as well that we are bringing it for you. This is all coming from open sources. He graduated summa cum laude in 2002 from UMBC. So he has also had a lot of academic degrees he's also completed his master's degree in security studies at the Georgetown University. So he's also completed his master's in security studies. He's traveled North Africa and the Middle East by motorcycle starting 2008. So he's also done a motorcycle tour of these countries. He joined the Libyan rebels as foreign fighter against Gaddafi in 2011. So that's what he has proclaimed, that he joined the Libyan rebels in 2011. He was captured and was held as prisoner of war for 6 months in Libya. So in Libya as well, he was captured. He was in fact held in custody for 6 months. Now, he fought with the rebels in a Syrian civil war and against Assad as well. So, he was part of the rebels in Syria as well after Libya, and he was involved in running covert missions in Venezuela since 2019. So, we know that he was involved in a lot of activities in Syria, in Libya, and now in Venezuela as well. Extensively posts about Burmese revolution and training rebels in Myanmar. So, he is in fact posting about how he wants to train the rebels in Myanmar and also about the Burmese revolution. So, that's something that's interesting. He's a US national. He's been part of various revolutions across the globe. Let me in fact go across to Major General Sudhakarji on this. General, we were just discussing, apart from the profile of Matthew Dyke, we were also discussing the charge sheet that has been filed. Now, it's a very interesting case because, like we were earlier discussing, Ukraine has lodged a note of protest. They are stating that we were not informed about these arrests and they might have been done unintentionally where they entered restricted territory. But however, General, the charge sheet also specifically mentions that they will be tried under the stringent UAPA. And Kyiv has mentioned that this is a very simple case of visa violation and they should be tried under that. How are you looking at this situation?
Shivani, without doubt, it is an international conspiracy. One has to join the small and the big dots. Then the coherent and consistent narrative emerges. A few days back in the Raisina dialogue, we all heard what the, I think, Deputy Assistant Secretary or Deputy Secretary of USA State Department, what did he have to say? He said that USA is not going to allow India to grow, or words to that effect. So that means USA will do anything and everything to make sure that India does not become a second China. That is the cause of worry. What a little while back I was sharing, a Thucydide doctrine. No superpower or established power will ever allow any rising power to come near or come up to its footing. And that is what is precisely in play. So when you talk about under what clause they should be charged, the case should be, it is too premature to speculate. Now that the place of apprehension or the arrest has been already disclosed, it has come out in the open media, Delhi, Lucknow and Kolkata. A very comprehensive examination of all factors relevant to the case must be undertaken. NIA must be complimented for the good job being done. What I suspect is that there is a bigger plan in place. The bigger plan is thankfully, the new regime has come into power in Bangladesh, but the Jamaitis for the first time in independent Bangladesh have shown a progressive and substantive footprint in the election outcome. The Jamaitis are nothing but they are the representatives of Pakistan. Pakistan means the ISI is playing still as important a role as they were playing earlier in the past. So when I talk about the ISI, let's take our mind back to 2014. What happened in 2014? 2014, the Daesh, I'm talking about the ISIS Levant or the Khorasan. The Daesh, before getting decimated in 2017, they had proclaimed that they would be establishing a global caliphate, extending the caliphate which was across 262 kilometers across Syria and Iraq, and go right across the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, and Australia and New Zealand, over 8,500, maybe 10,000 odd kilometers. They couldn't succeed. But post abrogation of Article 370 and 35 Alpha on 5th of August 2019, the ISIS and the ISI, they joined hands. Why did they join hands? Because the ISIS was unable to progress and establish any kind of objectives which had been outlined in 2014. The ISI of Pakistan, they offered things on a platter. What did they offer? They offered that sleeper cells. On one hand, the security apparatus of India was becoming absolutely stringent and very active and neutralizing all potential threats beforehand in a proactive manner. The other hand, the ISI and ISIS, they had joined hands, and ISIS desperately were looking for some kind of a opening and enhance its footprint. ISI gave them sleeper cells. Where all? Places like West Bengal, Jammu area, and also Maharashtra. These are the three places where they started off. And thereafter, soon, it was to be seen in preceding couple of years, between 2019 till date, that a small regional caliphate started appearing, showing their ugly heads in states like Assam, in Bihar, you have Kishanganj district, districts, and you also have places which are close to the defense industry corridor like Lucknow and also the capital city. So what we saw last year, we call it a Red Fort blast or whatever, Delhi blast, is something which is actually connected to all these bigger things which are coming into limelight. So CIA is involved definitely, and all these internationally established kind of people who are skilled and trained in carrying out these activities, they are also deeply involved. There are bigger forces inimical to India's growth story who are involved. They want to destabilize India, and in conjunction with ISI of Pakistan, and along with ISI Pakistan, there is also an agency of China which is deeply involved called as United Front Works Department. United UFWA. What is the job of this UFWA? They were created way back in 1920-22 during Mao Zedong's time, and their job was basically to penetrate into the democratic force of ROC. So they wanted to destabilize and weaken the democratic force at that point in time. They have been revived post abrogation of Article 370. The fund allocation has been rising and increasing day by day, and their job is basically to manipulate the minds of the influencer, people with influencing capability, like we witnessed in India. They want to penetrate into the media house and start building narrative which is against the growth story. They want to change the history, alter the history of India. The three warfare strategy of China that we keep hearing of, media, you have perception management, and the third one is some legal issues. They start a storyline. They start off with igniting dispute, and from dispute goes to legal, historical perspective, and likewise it keeps on unfolding. So the United Front Works Department, ISI, and the CIA, I feel, in my opinion, they have a lot to do. CIA may not be coming to the forefront. It may be taking use of these kind of elements, giving things on a platter, and welcoming the emergence of the regional caliphate in our country with an aim to destabilize. We should be mindful of one very important thing, last but not the least, Shivani, is that West Bengal is going to elections very soon. And for all you know, this guy who's been apprehended or arrested there in Kolkata airport, we should be able to establish some kind of linkages with Kishanganj, with the regional caliphate that we have been hearing of between 2012 in the last couple of years. People having migrated from the triangle of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. These are technically qualified people, IT qualified. Large number of them had shifted sometime in 2022 to this Karimganj area, Siliguri corridor. So we need to join all the dots and get a better, coherent, consistent picture. Only then we can take adequate, comprehensive preventive measure. Back to you, Shivani.
Absolutely, General. I think we'll be able to understand more of this once we are able to connect the dots, like you have mentioned. But always a pleasure, Major General Sudhakarji and Major General G.G. Dwivedi, to speak to you on NewsX. With that, we are slipping into a short commercial.